One of the incredibly powerful features of Microvellum software is it's built on tools that the industry is already using, namely Excel, AutoCAD, and SQL Server for the database. That means you're not learning new language when it comes to creating parametric products. You're using simple Excel formulas. You're not working with proprietary code to customize your drawings. You're just adjusting an AutoCAD drawing template. For some of our larger companies with multiple users, the data is stored in a Microsoft SQL Server database. While that might be a little daunting for some, and this video is outside of the day-to-day functions of a normal user, there are incredibly powerful tools that come with that. Think of a database as a bunch of Excel spreadsheets linked together. Each table is basically an Excel spreadsheet, and each database is like an Excel workbook. You can link between all of them. Since there's lots of data, we use queries instead of formulas to get the data that you want. It's like when you're looking at an online store and you use the filters to narrow down your selection so you just see what you want. In the background, that's running a query across all the items in the store or the database to show you just what you want. If you want to learn more about SQL Server, you can check out LinkedIn Learning courses, W3 Schools, and lots of other great places for some help on the various functions. The focus of this video is to get your data into Excel, and you can use that data for a variety of purposes. We'll assume you know some basic Excel functions and some basic SQL Server functions as well. So in this video, we'll have a look at how we can configure the Microvellum data storage. So we can configure that to include a Microsoft SQL Server database for both the production data as well as the work order data in the unified work order database. And we'll have a look at that. We'll look at some SQL queries in SQL Management Studio tools in order to kind of see how that works on that side. And then we'll take those queries, put them into Excel, and see how we can pull the data directly from the Microvellum database into an Excel spreadsheet. So over here in my Microvellum toolbox setup, I can have a look at my data configuration. On my data access tab, I can see my SQL Server connection here, and here's the name of my data source and my data catalog, and I've got that set for both my factory and my work order databases. And so if you're doing that, you probably want to have a SQL standard version, but what this allows us to do is in a SQL work order connection, have all of our data stored in a single work order database as opposed to individual SDF files. This is also used when we're using Microvellum Server to generate those work orders and process those work orders in the background without having to work on them inside of my toolbox environment. So here's how I've got my settings set, and so we'll flip over to Management Studio and have a look at what that looks like. And so when I open up my database in Management Studio, you can see this is my Microvellum factory and my Microvellum work order. Those are the ones that we're going to focus on here. And what I have is a query. I've got a series of queries that are set inside of my data here to pull various information. So this is my projects query. I'm just looking to the projects table. This is in my Microvellum factory, and it's set to look in the projects database. And so we can see all of our databases here, and when I go to projects, I am looking at the list of all the names of all of my projects, and so I've got my list of link IDs and project name. So I've got this information is selecting from all of the columns that I have inside of my projects. I have all kinds of different columns in here, but the only ones that I'm worried about right now are name, job number, address, and maybe I'm going to use this information for something outside of Microvellum to populate some information for down the road or some shipping documents or something else. I can pull that information in, and so we can adjust this query to have whatever columns make sense to include in this list, but for now I'll just include these ones. And then I have my products query. So this is actually going to be looking at the work order or the factory table as well. So if I look at my tables here in my products, I have all of my different products that are in my whole database. So this is every product in every project. And so this particular query, I've included all of the items in my products. I can see I've pulled in my project name and my room name and my wall information to know what those products are, width, height, and depth, some various information about those, the link ID, different information there. And so this one, because I'm looking at multiple tables, in order to get all the information that I want, I have some joins streamlines going on, and I'm selecting only certain types of products, and then I'm sorting that list of products. And so here I can see, I've got a query for my products. And again, you can configure that with whatever details that you needed to include. Same thing for parts here. I've got a list of all of my parts. So now this is actually looking at my work order table. So this is the processed work order data. So if I look at my work order data, there's all kinds of information that I could include in here. I've just chosen a few columns that I want to include. And I've got some information about the project, again, because this is going to be all of my work order data that's going to show up in this Excel list. I've got my project name, the work order name, what item number it belongs to, what the product it belongs to, if it belongs to a subassembly, and then basically this is a list of all the parts that are in my processed work order data. And I'm pulling in some information about the part size, the material, edge band, all that information. And so these are just standard queries that I can write inside of MySQL to have a look at some of my data. But what we're going to do now is take those over and put them into Excel, and I can use those as a way to access this data as well. And so now over in Excel, you can see I've preloaded all of my queries here. And so these are exactly the same queries that I was just looking at in my database here. So I've got my projects query, my products, parts, and hardware. And so I've just created those queries. You could really create any query and put them in here as the information. And all I've done is in here in my products, if I double click on that, this is the easiest way I've found to put this information into Excel, is to go over to my projects query, get it dialed into what I want it to be inside of Management Studio, and then take that data and copy that query. And in my source here, if I go to my source, I can just literally paste that down in my SQL statement down here and update that query, and that's going to give me the information that I've needed here. Now I've put the wrong query in there, so you can see that it changed the data. So I'll just flip back to my products query, grab that, and on my source, go here and connect and put that in. Then when I close that, I can say close and load. I can load it to a new worksheet, or I'll just save it to load back to the regular one. Now once I've got this dialed in to the way that I want it to be, that's going to just run through the background, and it'll always have that information in there. So here I've got my products, I've got my projects, my products, my parts, hardware, all of my different elements in there. And so these, once I have them set up, I can just come in here, and when I load up the workbook, it's actually going to do a refresh anyways, so I can set up my information and pull that in. But here, this is a list of all of my products. And what that means is if I go back to my projects here and I say add a new project, I can just add a new project called SQL test, let's say, and create that. So now if I go in, I just created a room and created a wall, and so if I say just fill this wall with products, and we'll just go, that's fine, we'll say there's 3 products on here, and we'll just make them 985. So items 1, 2, and 3 in this product, you can see they're associated to a wall. So now if I go over to my products table, so this is looking at my products table, you can see that all of a sudden I have my updated products. And so here's my new project, and there's my SQL test is the name of my project. I've attached those products to a wall, and here they are showing up on my Excel. If I go back and modify them, this is a live data link here, so if I say this last one is 900, for example, and I flip back to my Excel file, I can refresh that at any point, and there's my updated size. So this is a great way to be able to pull this information and use live data from your database into Excel, and you could use it for all sorts of different things. There's ways that you could pull this information in. Maybe you want to get a filtered list of a particular project and see all the products just for maybe creating a shipping list or doing something like that. I had a customer who was looking to have a list of products on their drawing file, and so take the list of items there. It's going to be a live list. Paste it in. You could paste it in as an Excel link into the AutoCAD, have that up to date. So lots of different ways that you could use this. It's a way that you can avoid re-entering products. And so that's the power of Microvellum software, is that it's open and accessible and uses industry standard tools in order to create the data, create that platform for the product that you need to build. So if you're looking to set that up from scratch into a new workbook, you can just do that here in Excel. And so if we go to data and we go to get data, there's a from database option, and from SQL Server database is the one that we're looking for. So here we're going to give the name of the server, and so that's going to be the same information that we're putting into Microvellum. So from my data source and data catalog, I'm just going to copy and paste that information and put it over into the Excel box here. The database name says it's optional, but it'll tell you that you can't move forward without it. So the data catalog, that is the database name. So here we'll just put that in. And then under advanced options, this is where we would paste in the SQL text from our SQL query over here in Management Studio. So if we go back to Excel and paste that in as our SQL query, then it's going to give us this list and show us, okay, so here's a preview of that data, and then we have the option to load, and we can load it to a existing worksheet, or I'll just go ahead and say load, and it'll throw in a new worksheet with that name. And so that's there, it's live. You can click refresh, you can change when it refreshes, you can force it to refresh at any point over there or over there, and so that's how you can pull the data from the Microvellum database into an Excel sheet and then use that for whatever you're looking for. So just a powerful way that you can use the flexible tools inside of Microvellum software to interact with other portions of your business. If you have any questions about this or any other functionality of Microvellum, check out microvellum.com for more videos and to click on the Contact Us page.